My name's Ben Yang. I'm a research engineer at the Georgia Tech Research Institute, and I first became involved in the Serve, Learn, Sustain initiative when I was assigned to teach an introductory electromagnetics class for the electrical and computer engineering department. There was a broad announcement to encourage us to get our class affiliated with SLS, and when I read the description, it seemed like an interesting challenge, so I signed up and figured that it would be a way to imbue a little bit more broader meaning into a traditionally very abstract and packed class. The SLS assignment that I incorporated for the class had several challenges. So the first is that there was traditionally a lot of material in the class already, and it's not tied to what people might think of more narrowly as a serve, learn, sustain topic. Primarily as electromagnetics goes, the reach from that to at least the environmental aspect of it is not as straightforward. So when I was designing the project, I had several goals in mind. The first is that it should allow the students to think more broadly about the pillars of sustainability, and certainly the SOLO Taxonomy helped me figure out how to broaden that kind of scope. The second is that it should help the students in a skill set that would be useful to them, that they aren't as trained on in their normal engineering curriculum. And the third was that it would have them researching a topic that would be useful to them. So along those lines, I incorporated a short little assignment into the class. The idea is to give a 4-minute TED Talk or just a very polished presentation without any visual aids in a manner that can be communicated to the general public on the social and environmental or economic impact that a particular topic of electromagnetics would have on the broader society. More specifically, I had them narrow down the topic areas by the potential courses that they could take as senior electives in the electromagnetics track. That way, they were looking into courses and topic areas that they would have to explore anyway when it came time to choosing electives, and also they would have to learn about the 3 pillars of sustainability and try to tie that to this abstract set of topics that they were learning about. In addition, it didn't take up very much course time, so we would have three different students present per day throughout the middle chunk of the semester. So it was 12 minutes of classroom time out of the day with some time for feedback and peer review. All in all, about 15 minutes, especially if I had the peer review take place offline, then that really narrowed the amount of classroom time that it would take. It also forced me to take a break if I had that in the middle section of the classroom, so I had to split my 80-minute lecture into 2 halves in addition to shortening it. So I think that overall introducing this activity also added the amount of retention that probably took place among the core material as well. I used the SOLO Taxonomy to evaluate the post-course data that was gathered by the SLS team, where they asked the students an open question about sustainability issues. And the role that the SOLO Taxonomy played was I used it to evaluate how broadly the students were able to think about sustainability as a whole. More specifically, were they able to tie the topic area that they brought up to more than one of the 3 pillars, the social, economic, and environmental topics of sustainability. I personally, when I was going over the data, I determined it a success if they were able to tie in more than one topic, so they were able to interrelate the 2, which is one of the levels of understanding that is in the SOLO Taxonomy. And using that metric, about 3/4 of the survey respondents were able to meet that metric. The primary way that this SOLO Taxonomy exercise benefited my students is that it put them in a mindset to be thinking about downstream effects of what they're learning, so that a lot of the topics that you have to learn in an academic setting are quite dry and abstract and ultimately removed from the broader societal impacts. So I think having them think about that and apply it to one of the more abstract classes, put them in a way where they had to practice doing that, and hopefully will be in the habit of doing so in future topics that are equally abstract and difficult to imbue meaning to. On top of that, the activity of doing a polished 4-minute presentation also forced the students to explore and be aware of the performance aspect of public speaking. I think that one of the ways that they were able to really practice that was not just in their 4 minutes on stage, but also during the time when they were peer reviewing both themselves as well as myself when I did the exercise as an example. I had the rubric for them that had, in my past education, I think the key, most important aspects of public speaking in terms of avoiding the use of fillers, eye contact, body language, those other critical, subtle aspects that make public speaking effective. And so on top of that, I think that the rubric being embedded in the back of their mind through this exercise will also help them communicate more effectively with the public and the non-technical crowd once they've had their deeper thoughts tying their technical work to the sustainability initiatives. The SLS experience and affiliating that with my course, for me, was a demonstrator that using broad definitions of sustainability, you can add that as a component to almost any technical course. The course that I taught, again, was abstract. There was a lot of material, and classroom time always felt constrained, but I felt like if I could make it work in this class, I could probably make it work in any class that I had some control over in terms of adjusting the content. For my students, I hope that the exercise of thinking sustainably about all the topics that they're learning in engineering, as well as focusing on the performance aspect and thinking critically about that as a metric for being able to engage their audience and their future customers. These are both topics that I think aren't really emphasized in engineering education enough, certainly not in my own back in my day. And so I think that from a diminishing returns perspective, it's so far in the beginning that I think that there is an outsized effect, even though the exercise was just a small portion of the class time.